The intergalactic conference hall hummed with the sound of 1,000 different species, each breathing, clicking, or resonating in their own unique way. Kennedy stood near the refreshment synthesizers, her human frame dwarfed by the towering Valkyrie delegates to her left and the crystalline Kython representatives shimmering on her right. She'd been with the Terran diplomatic corps for 3 years now, but the sheer diversity of alien life still made her heart race with excitement. "You look like you're about to pass out," Chase said, materializing beside her with 2 cups of something that resembled coffee but definitely wasn't. His sandy hair was disheveled as always, and his diplomatic uniform was already rumpled despite the day having barely started. "I'm fine," Kennedy said, accepting the cup gratefully. "Just taking it all in. This is the biggest congregation of species since the Accord of Centauri Prime." Chase nodded, his eyes scanning the crowd with practiced ease. As Kennedy's partner in the diplomatic mission, he'd saved her from more than one cultural faux pas over the years. "Just remember, don't compliment a Threxian's carapace. Never. Make eye contact with the Yulnari for more than 3 seconds, and for the love of Earth, don't mention the draconian tails," Kennedy finished, rolling her eyes. "I know, Chase, I've read the briefings. The Draconians were one of the most powerful species in the known galaxy, ancient, proud, and notoriously sensitive about their magnificent tails. Each tail was unique, covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors based on emotion and social standing. To comment on a Draconian's tail was considered either the highest compliment or the gravest insult, depending on context, tone, and about 17 other factors that human xenolinguists were still trying to decode." "Good," Chase said, but his expression remained worried, "because the Draconian ambassador is heading this way, and she's Ambassador Cerithus," Kennedy said smoothly, turning to face the approaching figure with what she hoped was an appropriately respectful smile. The Draconian woman was breathtaking. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, with scales that gleamed like polished obsidian across her humanoid torso and arms. Her face was elegant and angular, with golden eyes that seemed to pierce straight through to one's soul. But it was her tail that truly commanded attention, a magnificent appendage that stretched behind her, covered in scales that shifted between deep purple and electric blue, each one catching the light like a living aurora. "Ambassador Kennedy," attached Chase, Cerithus said, her voice a rich contralto that seemed to resonate in Kennedy's chest. "I hope you are finding our conference accommodating." "Absolutely, Ambassador," Kennedy replied, keeping her eyes carefully fixed on Cerithus's face. "The arrangements have been impeccable." As they spoke, Kennedy became aware of something odd. She'd been trained in quantum-linked communication, the new technology that allowed diplomats to share thoughts and impressions directly with their partners during delicate negotiations. The neural implant behind her ear was supposed to be activated manually, requiring a deliberate mental trigger, but somehow, as Kennedy stood there determinedly not looking at Ambassador Cerithus's tail, she felt the link between her and Chase activate spontaneously. "That tail is absolutely magnificent," Kennedy thought, unable to help herself. "The way those scales catch the light, it's like watching a sunset over an ocean. I've never seen anything so beautiful. The color gradations alone must represent decades." Kennedi's eyes widened in horror as she realized what was happening. The quantum link wasn't just connecting her to Chase due to some terrible malfunction or perhaps the interference of the station's exotic matter shielding her thoughts were broadcasting directly into Ambassador Cerithus's mind. The Draconian woman had frozen mid-sentence, her golden eyes now fixed on Kennedy with an unreadable expression. Her tail, which had been swaying gently behind her, had gone completely still. Chase had gone pale, clearly receiving Kennedy's thoughts through their proper link and understanding the catastrophe unfolding. "Ambassador, I apologize. Our communication systems seem to be," but Cerithus raised one elegant hand, silencing him. She took a step closer to Kennedy, her tail beginning to move again, the scales shifting rapidly through a spectrum of colors Kennedy had never seen before. "You think my tail is beautiful?" Cerithus asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kennedy wanted to run. She wanted to disappear into the floor. She wanted to explain that it was an accident, that she hadn't meant to violate diplomatic protocol, that she knew commenting on a Draconian's tail was incredibly inappropriate, and yet Kennedy's traitorous mind broadcast. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. The artistry, the way each scale connects to the next, the color patterns that seem to tell a story. I know I shouldn't be thinking this. I know it's inappropriate, but it's true." The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. Kennedy could feel every eye in their section of the hall turning toward them. Chase looked like he might actually faint. Then, slowly, Ambassador Sirithus began to laugh. It started as a low rumble in her chest and grew into a full, rich sound that filled the space around them. Her tail began to move in elaborate patterns, the scales now glowing with what Kennedy recognized from her briefings as joy, pure, unfiltered joy. In 300 years, Sirithus said, her eyes shining with what might have been tears. No one has ever, she paused, composing herself. Humans, you extraordinary, impossible humans. She reached out and gently took Kennedy's hand. Among my people, the tail is the soul made visible. We guard our feelings about them zealously, because to comment on a tail is to see into the heart of a draconian. We have always believed that other species could never truly appreciate them, that they saw them as mere appendages, curiosities, or at best, diplomatic complications. Sirithus's tail wove an intricate pattern in the air, the scales creating a mesmerizing display. But you, Kennedy of Earth, you saw art, you saw beauty, you saw story, and you broadcast it with such pure, unguarded honesty that I felt it as clearly as if you were one of my own people. Chase finally found his voice, so Kennedy didn't just cause an intergalactic incident. Sirithus smiled, revealing teeth that gleamed like pearls. On the contrary, she may have just revolutionized draconian-human relations. She turned back to Kennedy, squeezing her hand gently. Your people's capacity for genuine appreciation, for finding beauty in the unfamiliar. This is why humanity will always have a place among the stars. As word spread through the conference hall, other draconians began to approach, their tails weaving patterns of curiosity and excitement. Kennedy stood there, still slightly stunned. As Chase whispered beside her, only humans could turn a diplomatic disaster into a triumph by accident. Kennedy couldn't argue with that. After all, it was very, very human indeed.